All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son Hamashiach Yahweh, we know is Jesus Christ. All right, give a salute to all the brothers and sisters scattered across the four corners, teaching His word with sincerity and charity. Brother Finney is here with another class, Wednesday night class. Prophets, apostles, first one of the year, first one of the secular, I guess, of the worldly year. So we wanted to start this thing on a good note, man. Wanted to start this thing on time. You know, to roll in what's, you know, what the world says is the new year. All right. You know, whether we agree with it or not, you know, we got to change our calendars, you know, regardless of the fact. So some things, man, you know, for me just ain't worth playing with no more, man. Or trying to fight against or whatever, man. It is just what it is, man. Them folks say it's a new year. It's a new year. You got to change your calendar. You got to write 24. Okay? You know, you can sit up here and try to write 23 till spring come around. But it's going to do you more harm than good. Shalom, Brother Eleazar.
Shalom, what's going on, brother?
Nothing to it. All right. Dealing with the prophets, the apostles, and Paul. And basically, man, this class is going to be just us really putting some respect on these titles, man. A lot of us are using these titles, and I'm not here to say whether you're using it right or correctly, or you're not one of these titles, or you're not prescribed. But if you are and you do consider yourself to be a prophet, or if you do consider yourself to be an apostle, stand on it. Stand on it. I seen some demons get cast out this week. Seen apostle. I think he calls himself an apostle, Geno Jennings. Cast out a demon this week. I seen Straightway Truth pastor. What's his name? Straightway Truth, Pastor Dow. I seen Pastor Dow commend him on it and said, you know, pretty much guaranteed during Passover, he's going to be casting out a host of demons. Even though they're a commandment keeping flock, you know, they still get, you know, those demons on them. And they've been casting out these demons. I'm not here to say whether they casting them out or they not casting them out, whether I believe that or not. I'm not here to judge that, man. I'm just saying, if you are an apostle, if you're a demon casting out apostle, or you're a prophet that's the prophesying, stand on it. Stand on it. Stand on it so we can prove the matter. So we can test it to see whether it's true or not. All right, so we can test it and see whether it holds validity or not. Don't be scared to prophesy if you're a prophet. Don't be scared to give us a word directly from God if you're a prophet. Don't be afraid to use your healing hands if you're an apostle and you got these special gifts. Don't be afraid of that, because we need that. Especially in the unbelieving world that we have today, especially with the lack of faith that we have today, that we're seeing within the nation, that we're seeing within the world. A good miracle is needed. Good miracles are needed. Some good signs and some good wonders are needed for this unbelieving and faithless generation. Shalom, Brother Dion.
Shalom, Mark. Shalom.
Shalom. All right, prophets, acts, apostles. I don't know, man. We haven't been through this one. It seems like it may be a little lengthy, but I'm gonna try to breeze through some of the definitions here. What is a prophet? This is a biblical definition from Easton's Biblical Dictionary. To bubble forth. All right. Well, the Hebrew not be from a root meaning to bubble forth, as from a fountain, hence to utter. Compare Psalms 45:1. And it's always good, sometimes when you're looking these definitions up and they giving you certain verses and references to look these things up, see how these words are used. This Hebrew word is the first and most generally used for a prophet in the time of Samuel. Another word, ro'eh, which means seer, began to be used. All right. So initially, this Hebrew word nabi, was used, which means to bubble, which come from the root, which means to bubble forth, hence to utter. And then later on, the word started being used, a more popular word started being used as ro'eh, which is for seer, began to be used around 1 Samuel 9:9. We'll look at that a little later. It occurs 7 times in reference to Samuel. Afterwards, another word, Hosea, which also means seer, was employed. You see that in 2 Samuel, 1 Chronicles 29:29. All these 3 words are used: Samuel, seer, ro'eh; Nathan, the prophet, nabi; Gad, the seer, Hosea. You see in Joshua 13:22, Balaam is called the Hebrew word kosim, diviner, a word used only of a false prophet. Balaam was that false prophet that was supposed to prophesy against Israel, and he could not. The Lord wouldn't allow him. He had to speak what the Lord told him to speak. But diviner was used for him, and said this word is only used to call out a false prophet. Thus the prophet was a spokesman. It says a prophet proclaimed the message given to him as the seer beheld a vision of God. You see this in Numbers. Thus a prophet was a spokesman for God. All right, so the prophet was a spokesman for God. He spake in God's name and by his authority. All right, this is Exodus 7:1. He is the mouth by which God speaks to men. Jeremiah 1:9, Isaiah 51:16. And hence what the prophet says is not of man, but of God. All right, so the prophet is an extension of God. The prophet is God's mouth. The prophet is God's tongue. He's speaking direct words given to him, a direct revelation given to him by God. All right. Here go another one in the blue letter here. It's a proclamator, prophecy, a proclamator of a divine message, denoted among the Greeks, an interpreter of oracles of God. You see the ro'eh again as a seer, indicating that the prophet was one who had immediate intercourse with God. It is also translated the word nabi, which we just went over that, nabi, ra'ah, and ro'eh, and Hosea. Either one in whom the message from God springs forth, or one to whom anything is secretly communicated. And a lot of times these prophets had, like I say, they had direct communication. If you wanted to speak to God, you went to the prophet. You had a question that you wanted to ask God. You had a problem that needed to be solved. You was in question or something. You went to the prophet, you went to the man of God, and he would be that intermediator for you, and you'll get that direct word back from the prophet. Prophet will hear from God, and then you'll get it from the prophet. 1 Samuel 9:9. Samuel, I think they're looking for sheep, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure here. Let me make sure, but I think they're looking for a lost sheep here. Show the young man. Okay, it was a donkey. All right, looking for a donkey. It says, before time in Israel, a man spake when went to inquire of God. Before time in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, Thus he spake, come and let us go to the seer. All right. For he that is now called a prophet was before time called a seer. Then Saul said to his servant, well said, come, let us go. So they went into the city where the man of God was. So they going to try to find the donkey. They need to know where that donkey is. Hey, let us go find the seer, or let us go find the prophet. And the prophet will tell us where these things are. And you know, if you know the story, you know these things were aligned for Saul to meet the prophet and to ultimately get anointed as king. How to prove a prophet. Let me read, get somebody Deuteronomy 18:15. We're gonna read through 22. Shalom, Sister Celicia.
Said Deuteronomy 18 and 15.
15, we read through 22.
This is
Give me one
Deuteronomy.
second here.
You
Got
good,
it?
brother?
Yeah, I'm trying to pack actually.
Okay, kind. Deuteronomy 15 and start at verse 18.
Khan.
And it reads, it shall not seem hard unto thee when thou sendest him
Deuteronomy
away.
18, Shalakia 15 through 22. My bad.
Oh, my bad. Deuteronomy 18, 15, 22. My bad. Oh, that's on me. Okay, kind. This is the book of Deuteronomy 18, starting at verse 15. It said, the Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken, according to all that thou desirest of the Lord thy God in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, neither let me see this great fire anymore, that I die not. And the Lord said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou say in thy heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord have not spoken? When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the things follow not nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord have not spoken, but the prophet have spoken it presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him.
Thou shalt not be afraid of him. All right. If that thing do not come to pass, and this is why if you saying you're a prophet, you should be prophesying. And then the only way for us to know whether you are truly a prophet is if these things come to pass. If they don't come to pass, then we know, you know, not to reverence you like that, not to be afraid of you. And we have people doing it now. These jokers, you know, there's a lot of jokers in these churches are pastors, you know, they prophesying. They giving prophecy to their members. And what they say, a clock right twice a day or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even a clock right twice a day. They mess around and catch, you know, you catch one on the right day, and he done gave you a prophecy and it end up coming to pass, you know. You got you one. You got you one that's loyal. You know, you might have got that, but you might have the power. I'm not saying you ain't got the power. I'm just saying if you're a prophet, stand on it. That's all I'm saying. What's an apostle? What's an apostle? I like this little definition here. It says a modern day apostle in the tradition of apostolistic prophetic movement is one who is called and sent by Christ to have a spiritual authority, character, gifts, and abilities to successfully reach and establish people in the kingdom, truth, and order, especially through founding and overseeing local churches. And a lot of people call themselves apostles because they know how to gather folks. You know, even what's that brother name? Pastor William, the one in the scandal with the swag and surfing in the church.
Yeah, Murphy, I think it is.
William Murphy. He says himself a bishop, so I don't think he calls himself an apostle, but
yeah, bishop. Okay.
He was reverencing on his response, like, you know, you build what I built. You know, you do. You said we had 150 people, you know, did the altar call. And you know, some churches kind of get away from the altar calls. Now, some churches don't do the altar call, saying it's not biblical. But a lot of churches do. Churches I grew up in, they did the altar call. They still do the altar call at the end of the church. But you know, so I'm saying that don't save you. That altar call don't really save you. It's not biblical. They fighting over that. But he said he saved 150 souls that night. And he had a packed house. Regardless of what you say, the house was packed. And he could, you know, and he boasted in that, you know, he boasted in that against a lot of other churches. And like I said, a lot of other churches kind of, well, I feel, in my opinion, that if they don't become more worldly, then they will lose members. They will, you know, these new age churches are kind of the churches that people are kind of falling into now, from I think from 40 on down. I think a lot of the 50s, 60s, 70s, they still stern on certain things, but that 40 and down, I think they just more worldly. They just still want to be worldly. They still want to kick the bobo. They still have that taste, you know, that flesh still on their tongues.
And Shalakia.
Go ahead, brother.
That Pastor Murphy, man, you know, he also was the ones that christening the lesbian couple baby too. He caught a lot of flack on that too, man. Christian the lesbian couple baby, man. So yeah, you know, he's very worldly, you know what I mean? And that's the way the church, and you know, the church moving towards, you know, and so a lot of times, you know, and I don't mean to get off topic too much, but a lot of times we when we understand the earlier churches that we was brought up in, it was more so, even if they didn't keep God's commandments, but they had a trajectory as if that we had to fear God, and what they consider keeping God's commandments, they hold fast to it. But this new thing is anything goes, and now it's trying to be some kind of pushback on the Murphys and all this stuff. But in my opinion, this is what we get when we play with fire. Eventually, you get burned. And I yeah, brother.
And it wasn't just no regular lesbian couple. This was a famous lesbian couple. This was the Brat and her wife. So this was a celebrity couple. This is probably gonna be on a reality show. Later, it's probably gonna be filmed on a reality show later. So you know, that's just another stamp, really. You know, and it's not gonna. It hurts the church, but it's not gonna hurt him as an individual. If anything, it'll make people travel across the world to come to this church where they can get their gay relationship and a child from that relationship christening, or get their transgender child christening. It'll be, you know, it'll be worth it's worth 400-500 miles to drive to get this done in a healthy healthy donation placed into the tithe bucket. Here this other definition here. Let me see if I can zoom this in so I can see it. On the right side, an apostle in its literal sense is a missionary. The word is derived from ancient Greek, literally one who is sent off. Itself derived from the verb apostolian, to send off. The purpose of such sending off is usually to convey a message, and thus the messenger is a common alternative translation. Other common translations include ambassador and envoy. There was one sent off, an apostle, one sent off. And there are disputes. And again, I'm not here to make those disputes, but there are disputes about, are we in the dispensation of prophets? Are we in the dispensation of the apostles? Are we still giving those titles, or are we limited to what Paul described in bishops, deacons, and etc.? But I'm not here to make that argument, but that is an argument that is out there. Acts chapter 9, verse 15. Again, we're going to get into Paul, but I just want to establish that first on what these titles mean and how these titles were used in some of the attributes that these people had, some of the skill sets that these people had that held that title within the text. And for those who are taking those titles, are we comparing ourselves to those with the text, or are we putting a new spin on it because we're in a different time? So it's not as strong, or it's done metaphorically now, because a lot of us feel, we've brought people or we've saved people out of certain situations, and this may be some kind of way of healing and so forth. But that's for those who to think about before you start using the title. All right. Acts chapter 9, verse 15 through 16. I'll read this real quick. It says, "But the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him great things he must suffer for my name's sake." So we see that Paul is a chosen vessel. All right. He's a chosen vessel from that one that you were told in Deuteronomy that you were supposed to listen to, in Deuteronomy 18, that you were supposed to listen to and hearken to every word that he's telling you. He's telling you now that this individual is a chosen vessel to bear his name. All right. It's a chosen vessel to bear his name. So before we start, questioning the authority of this individual, we have to start there. All right. That this is a chosen vessel from Christ. Questioning of Paul's authority. We'll look at 1 Corinthians chapter 9. We're going to read 1 through 20. I'll read 1 through 20. Matter of fact, I'll read this, and then, like I said, we got a lot of reading. We're going to read 11 and 12, pretty much those whole chapters also. Let me see what time we at. 8 o'clock. Well, it ain't that bad. Yeah, I read this, and then you can read the next one from me. But we see here people finna question Paul's authority here. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. It says, "Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Jesus Christ our Lord? Are not ye my work in the Lord? If I be not an apostle unto others, yet doubtless I am to you. For the seal of mine apostleship are ye in the Lord." All right. So my apostleship shouldn't be questioned. It may be questioned by these other jokers, but it ain't going to be questioned by y'all, because y'all are evidence of my apostleship. All right. Y'all are evidence of it. My answer to them that examine me is this: Have we not power to eat and to drink? Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles, and as the brethren of the Lord, and as Cephas, as Peter? And when he's saying here, this is kind of a hard read here, but what he's saying here, he's saying, if I be not an apostle unto other, well, Shalakia, it says, my answer to them that examine me is this, verse 4. It says, have we not power to eat and drink? Meaning I have the authority for y'all to take care of that for me. Because I'm y'all teacher, I have the authority that y'all should feed, and you should at least feed me. You should at least feed me. You should at least, I have, and I have that just like y'all do Peter. And to have a sister to follow to do certain things, and to have a wife. As other apostles, they get this certain help from these other people and from the people that they're in service to. And as the brethren of the Lord, and as Cephas, Peter. Or I only in Barnabas, have not we power to forbear working, who goeth to a warfare any time at his own charges, who planteth a vineyard and eateth not of the fruit thereof. All right, so he's saying, what, me and Barnabas can't go? We the only ones gotta work for ourselves and get it ourselves. Like, if we serving y'all, we should be able to benefit from, from the body. All right, the body should take care of the teachers. But why? But watch this about Paul. And once we understand this and what he's saying here, the text kind of opened up a little bit. Verse 7 again, it says, who goeth a warfare any time at his own charges? Who planteth a vineyard and eateth not of the fruit thereof? Or who feedeth a flock and eateth not of the milk of the flock? All right, why am I not benefiting? Say I these things as a man. All right, and people getting, again, he just saying this on a base level. All right, or saith not the law the same also? For it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn. All right, so he's telling you, man, do I say this as a man? Do I say this? Or does the law say this? Am I just saying this because I just want to take advantage of y'all? Or that I just wanna be this joker that just feeding off the flock? That I'm yearning, that I'm teaching this gospel to, that I'm like, servicing. Or does the law say this? And then it gives the law there about not let me see if I can find my place again. Verse 9 says, for it is written in the law that thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Doeth God take care of the oxen? Or saith he it altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt, this is written, that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and that he that thresheth in hope should be a partaker of his hope. If we have sown unto you spiritual things, it is a great thing if we reap. Is it a great thing if we reap your cardinal things? This is, and again, this is how Paul writes, in these forms of questions. All right. He said, is it a big deal? Like, if we sowing into you spiritual things, and we just asking for some bread and food to nourish us while we're doing these things. He said, verse 12, it says, if others be partakers of this power over you, are not we rather? Nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ. And so he's telling you that he's saying that I didn't do it. Even though I have the right to do it, I didn't do that. I didn't take your bread. I preached these things to you for free. I preached them to you for free. And this is going to carry on into another chapter here. It says, nevertheless, we have not used his power, but suffered all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ. Do ye not know that they which minister about holy things live of the things of the temple? Just like he's talking about the priests here. All right. The priests who do the holy things in the priesthood, they live in the temple. The people feed those people. We give our tithes, or we gave our tithes to those people, and they lived off of those spiritual things. When those sacrifices were made, the priests got to eat off of that. All right, it says, and they which wait at the altar are partakers with the altar. Yeah. Those that are at the altar for that sacrifice, they get to eat it. Even so have the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. In the same way, the Most High, he says they ordained that those who preach the gospel should live off the gospel. But watch this. It says, but I have used none of these things. All right, Paul said, I ain't do that. Neither have I written these things that it should be so done unto me. For it were better for me to die than that any man should make my glory in void. Meaning, he said, I'd rather die than take that food from y'all that I couldn't boast in the fact that I'm teaching the gospel for absolutely nothing. That I'm not burdening the body. But it is my right. All right, because even those priests that teach the holy things or that do those things that are holy, they eat off of those things that are holy. And thus I should be doing the gospel the same way. Thus I said that those who eat the gospel should live off the gospel. But I would rather die than to take that bread from y'all, that someone can take my glory in that. Verse 16, it says, for though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me, yea, woe is unto me, if I preach not the gospel. And he says, listen, I'm not preaching the gospel because I want to. He says, woe unto me, because it's a structure. I teach it out of fear. If I don't teach it, if I ain't doing what the Most High tell me, he's gonna kill me. I'm teaching this out of fear. I'm teaching it out of necessity. All right, for necessity is laid upon me. Yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. Woe is unto me if destruction. I'm gonna die if I don't do it. So I'm definitely not finna do it I'm definitely not doing it for your money. I'm not doing it for your bread. It says, for if I do these things willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me. Shalakia, for if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me. What is my reward then? Verily, that when I preach the gospel, I may make the gospel of Christ without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel. For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself a servant unto all, that I might gain more. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, and that I might gain Jews, and to them that are under the law is under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. But again, Paul is going into those questioning his authority, but he's going out the gate to say, listen, I have certain rights as an apostle. You are evidence of my apostleship. The Church of Corinth, y'all are evidence of my apostleship. And I ain't charging y'all nothing like other apostles. And I would rather die. And we're gonna see this in 2 Corinthians 11. We'll see this there also. So let's go there, 2 Corinthians 11, and let's go into another conversation, but it's still dealing with Paul's apostleship being questioned. Who is this guy? And this thing came out the gate, with Ananias in Acts 9. And it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. And just like we have him questioning Paul today, the same thing was going on then. So we're gonna read 2 Corinthians 11. We're gonna start from the top. We're gonna read that whole chapter there.
I can read that if y'all don't. If y'all don't, that's okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Come. And I just wanted to say, like, I have that what we just read. I have that chapter 8 highlighted, but I don't think I got to that chapter 9. And just reading that and listening to that, how can people? I mean, that's crazy for someone to still be questioning. But I guess, like you just said, they was doing it then and they're doing it now. So, yeah. So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 11. Would to God ye could bear with me a little in my folly, and indeed bear with me, for I am jealous over you with godly jealousy. For I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. But I fear lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or if ye receive another spirit, which ye have not received, or another gospel which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with him. For I suppose I was not a whit behind the very chiefest apostles. What is that? If I was not a whit.
It's like he's giving the apostles he's giving the apostles, he's making them he's putting them above them.
Okay.
If you look at it in the it says, but I don't consider myself inferior in any way, Shalakia, to these super apostles who teach certain things. So he's putting it's the opposite of what I said. He's making them super apostles, but he did, in a way, kind of just saying, listen, I'm not inferior to them. Again, he's in question. His apostleship is in question here. Then he's answering that. And as for I propose, I'm not wit behind the very chiefest of apostles. I don't find myself inferior or behind the best of apostles.
Yeah, Shalakia. The definition for wit is a very small part or amount.
Verse 6. But though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things. Have I committed an offense in abasing myself, that ye might be exalted, because I have preached to you the gospel of God freely?
Now look what he said here. He says, have I committed an offense in abasing, meaning bringing myself down, humbling myself, that ye may be exalted, because I done preached the gospel free. Go ahead.
I've robbed other churches, taking wages of them to do you service.
To do you service. So, and a lot of people that mix this up. All right, because really what he's saying here is that, I did take contributions from another church, to do you, so I wouldn't have to take it from you. But it ain't that he stole something. I was looking at him when and took this thing and twisted and say, man, Paul was out here stealing. He stole from another church and then took it over there. But he's saying he robbed him because internally he feels he shouldn't be taking nothing from no church. That he should be living off his own wages. That he shouldn't have to ask them for help and burden them by asking them for anything. But in the instance he did, and now he said, well, I robbed them. So I didn't have to do it to you. But it's not that he, he has that right to get those contributions from that organization. Go ahead, Doc.
Shalakia, if I can, and what a lot of times what we gotta understand too, man, this was the beginning of the switching of the guards as well. Is when the Leviticus priest was doing these things. That's what you're seeing. What's the Acts? I think it's Acts 5 where you seen the Leviticus priest starting to change that changing of the guard of the Leviticus priest, um, being the vanguard of the priesthood. But then when you see that other like Paul being the Benjamite and then other tribes starting to take that priesthood, they start taking the contribution as the priest because their responsibility was to be the vanguard of people's souls. So that's what this whole conversation about. But we sometimes we lose sight of the switching of the priesthood with Christ. And I hear, brother.
Come. And you're dealing with you're dealing with this shift. It's a shift happening with and these churches are opening up. And there's a I forget in the text where it is, but a prophet came and spoke on a famine that was going to come to the land. And this is why eventually you see Paul making asking for contributions on the first day of the week, to take those contributions from those churches in those other areas and take it back to Jerusalem, because they were going through hard times in the land at that point. Where we was at, verse 9.
Verse 9. And when I was present with you and wanted, I was chargeable to no man. For that which was lacking to me, the brethren that which came from Macedonia supplied. And in all things I have kept myself from being
Look at him. He's
burdensome
saying,
unto
listen,
you.
Shalakia. And he, when I needed something, when I was hungry and was lacking, I didn't get it from you. I was provided those things from brethren in Macedonia. They supplied me those things, so I wouldn't have to do this. So I wouldn't have to be burdensome to you. Go ahead, brother.
And in all things I have kept myself from being burdensome unto you, and so will I keep myself. As the truth of Christ is in me, no man shall stop me of this boasting in the regions of Achaia.
And Shalakia, think about the attitude that Paul has. Like, he's trying to boast in the fact that I don't want to make myself burdensome to, I'm going to teach this thing freely. I'm going to give y'all this gospel without trying to burden y'all at all. Without the Bentleys, without the big buildings, without the nice clothes, without you giving me any food, without us having to break bread. I'm a teach this thing, and I don't want it to be a burden to you at all. And I want to boast. I'm not gonna let nobody take that. I'm not gonna let nobody take that boasting from me. In all the regions of Greece. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 11. Wherefore, because I love you not, God knoweth.
And then he's saying, why? Why? Because I don't love you? You think I'm doing that because I don't love you? Doing that because I love you. God knoweth. Go ahead.
But what I do, that will I do, that I may cut off occasion from them which desire occasion, that wherein they glory, they may be found even as we. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. I say again, let no man
we
see.
We see that we doing this also, that you know, those who come along and try to call themselves apostles or try to compare their work to ours, they won't be able to do it. All right, they won't be able to do it, and they'll be found out to be false apostles and false ministers. All right, because they're not going to be able to glory in that, because they took advantage. All right, and they taught it to make it burdensome. You know, they didn't do it. They didn't do it for free. They didn't do it for even a light burden. You know, they put a heavy tax on it. You know, it probably costs to sit some of these ministries to sit that front row to get that good parking spot. It probably costs a good penny has probably been invested to get that treatment. And we know the gospel is kind of like the opposite, man. You know what I'm saying? The least will be the greatest, and the greatest will be the least. It's a different gospel. But again, don't marvel at, you know, these false apostles, these false ministers that will come. But this is what will separate them, especially from Paul's ministry. Go ahead, Al.
Verse 10, I say again, let no man think me a fool. If otherwise, yet as a fool receive me, that I may boast myself a little. That which I speak it not after the Lord, but as if it were foolishly, in this confidence of boasting. That's a little confusing. Think that which I speak it not after the Lord. So he's just speaking himself. Okay.
He's speaking boastfully. So, you know, he's boasting in because they trying him, he has to kind of bring out some of these accolades, some of the things, some of his attributes that he's doing. And in doing so, he's telling I'm speaking foolishly and boasting in these things. But let me just suffer me to speak foolishly for a little minute so I can get the message across. For those that's questioning and my sincerity in doing this.
Verse 18, seeing that many glory after the flesh, I will glory also. For ye suffer fools gladly, seeing ye yourselves are wise. For ye suffer. If a man bring you into bondage, if a man devour you, if a man take of you, if a man exalt himself, if a man smite you on the face, I speak as concerning reproach, as though we had been weak. Howbeit, whereinsoever any is bold, I speak foolishly, I am bold also. Are ye Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more, in labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prison more frequent, and deaths oft. Of the Jews 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. Thrice was I beaten with rods. Once was I stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I have been in the deep. In journeyings often, in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils by my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren, in weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. Beside those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. Who is weak? Am I not weak? Who is offended? And I burn not. If I must needs glory, I will glory of the things which concern mine infirmities. The God and Father, our Lord Jesus Christ, which is blessed forevermore, knoweth that I lie not. In Damascus, the governor under Aretas, the king, kept the city of the Damascens with a garrison, desirous to approach me. And through a window in a basket was I let down by the wall and escaped with his hands.
So in Damascus, they had guards. They was trying to apprehend. They was having to apprehend Paul, but Paul is telling them, man, look at the man. Listen, you know, whatever they said they done did, I done did more. I done did more. Anybody talking about they weak, I'm weaker. Anybody talking about they sick, I'm probably sicker. Look at the stripes. Left at sea. I've been perils from the heathen, perils from my own brethren, perils from false brethren. And more importantly, the daily work of the church. The daily work of trying to, establishing these churches. And y'all questioning my apostleship.
Shalakia.
Go ahead, brother.
And you see like, nah, just reading it. When Brother Dion was reading it, I was like, and you see that, like, that spirit is that same spirit that Paul was dealing with in this first century church, or dispensation. You see it right now today. Like, a lot of times when I hear Israelites and Christians debating, I see that same division. Like, if the apostles knew was here today, they would be under the same scrutiny. It'd be the same thing, because Paul wasn't just getting it from Israel, but he was getting it for everybody. Like, it's like being on in between two horses, and they pulling you from one end to the other, bro. It's like you can't, and that's why Christ asked them, would you be able to drink of this cup? Because the Messiah walked what no, I know everybody claimed to love him then, man, but it wasn't no fanfaredom when Christ was on the scene, man. Christ had issue with everybody. It was people that followed him, people that believed, but a lot of people did it in secret. A lot of people didn't want to be openly known that they were following him, because it wasn't a popular thing to follow this dude that was calling himself the Messiah. It was almost blaspheming. So it wasn't popular to do that. You know what I mean? And so when you see Paul going through this, it just make me kind of see some of this stuff when I be hearing these brothers debating with Christians. It kind of put me in the same mindset, brother.
Man, it wasn't a pretty sight, man. It wasn't, and this is what I'm saying. When we making ourselves these people, and we putting ourselves in these shoes, man. The shoes of the prophets and apostles were not. They were some heavy shoes, man. All right, it was a heavy cup. It's a heavy cup to bear. That joker was stoned to death and left for dead. Stoned to death and left for dead. And then pop up and got to go continue on the mission. And go continue on the mission in hunger, in thirst, in perils. Left out for sea for days. We vacationing, having a good time. They got gospel cruises now, man. You go on a church cruise, man. Have a good time, man. But they not having. It's not that, man. It's not that. It's not that what these folks are going through, and to think these people are going through this just, man, he's just having his own ideas, and he was just a man, and he just did this, and he was just one of us. I don't know, man. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna read. I read 2 Corinthians 12. We're gonna read 1 through 13.
I can read that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you said 2 Corinthians 12.
12. We're gonna read 1 through 13.
Okay, this is the book of 2 Corinthians 12, starting at verse 1. Said, is it not expedient for me doubtless to glory? I will come to vision and revelation of the Lord.
Basically he's saying, it ain't expedient. It ain't, it, basically, it ain't doing me no good to do this, but we gonna continue. Go ahead.
Verse 2. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, whether in the body, I cannot tell, or whether out of the body, I cannot tell. God knoweth, such an one caught up to the third heaven. And I knew such a man, whether it in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell. God knoweth. How that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such an one will I glory, yet of myself I will not glory, but in my infirmities. For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, for I will say the truth. But now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he hears of me.
In Shalakia, Paul telling him, man, listen, he had this vision, this revelation, and he heard certain things. In his third heaven, he knew a man in his third heaven, heard certain things that shouldn't be uttered. And I could glory in this, but it's foolish. I count these things foolish. I'd rather glory in my infirmities. But you see a joker every day trying to tell you about a vision, trying to tell you, I heard a brother today saying he heard this great shofar. And that's how he was ordained to teach this thing. He had a vision, a great shofar was blowing. He gave the sound of the shofar, and I'm not, who am I to say he didn't have a vision, he didn't have the, I'm not here to question that. I'm just saying, are we glorying in our infirmities? Are we boasting in our infirmities rather than, I had heard another brother say, well, I heard God tell me, make yourself known. And so I went on these YouTube streets and I made myself known. I heard it loud and clear the second time. And I got up and I said, I made myself known to these YouTube streets. And that was the beginning. And I'm not here to say whether you heard it or not. I'm just saying this apostle that I'm reading here is he's dealing with the infirmities. He's glorying in his infirmities. He's not boasting in that. And to him, that's foolish. But go ahead.
Verse 7. And least I should be exalted above measures through the abundance of the revelation. There was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought thee, Lord, thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I gather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me.
Shalakia, and that's a key verse there.
Yeah.
And again, he had a powerful message. I don't know what that third heaven and things that shouldn't be spoken. I don't know what that, but that it would allow him to boast. But listen, so he wouldn't be exalted. So he was given a thorn in his flesh. And I don't have here to go over what the thorn was, but he was given a thorn in his flesh, where Satan is buffeting him, and it's making him weak. It's weakening him. It's humbling him. It's abasing him. And he asked the Lord 3 times to remove this this thorn, this ailment, whatever this is, he wanted it removed. He begged for it to be removed. He prayed for it to be removed. And the Most High told him that in your weakness is when my power is shown. In that weakness. Go ahead, Charles. Go ahead, Doc.
Lucky, and that's man, that bro, that right there reading that brought chills, bro, because it's we don't even understand how the Most High, like we thinking that everything, like we glorify men when we see the attribute of the fruit of their success, and that's how we glorify men, like you were saying how Pastor Bishop Murray was glorifying how many people that he got into the building. You glorifying in your worldly success. But Paul said he was glorified in his infirmities. Like, don't none of us want to suffer. We all want the world renowned blessings, but the affliction is where the Most High say, I make you. That's where my strength lies, in the infirmities, and not in the worldly success. That's why I say through their affliction they will seek me early. Through that pain, through that agony, through that, through the dark, like they say, waiting in the midnight hour. You know what I mean? And that part of your life is where God's voice be the loudest. And I yield, brother.
Absolutely, man. And that's a tough puzzle to pick up, but yeah, that's the truth, man. That's when it's his strength, and that's why he chose Israel, because they were weak, and so he can show his power, so he can show his strength, and that's what he did through Paul. He made Paul weak. He buffeted him to show the strength that has to be the power of God, that he's still out here doing this thing, and healing people and doing all of these things and ministering to us in his infirmities while he's sick. And that's why I would say, I'm never jealous or envious of leadership, especially good leadership, because I know they go through something. God's leadership, if God lead you, you got some problems. If God put you there, you got some thorns. It ain't just smooth and crystal sailing. You got some thorns. You got some things you're going to have to deal with to abase you, to humble you. And so just some infirmity. I know some infirmities there. So, I pray for you. I pray for you. What verse we at? Verse 10.
10. Done. Verse 10. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, and reproach, in necessities, in persecution, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. I have become a fool in glorying. Ye have compelled me, for I ought to have been commanded of you. For in nothing am I behind the very chief apostles, though I be nothing. Truly, the signs of an apostle were wrought among you in all patience, in signs and wonders and mighty deeds. Let me keep going.
Last verse 13.
13. It say, for what is it wherein ye were inferior to other churches, except it be that I myself was not burdensome to you? Forgive me this wrong.
He says, I wasn't inferior to none of the chiefest apostles. And the only thing as a church that you were inferior to was the fact that I didn't ask you for anything or any contributions. And forgive me for that. Forgive me for that. And he's not really asking for forgiveness. He just, he's doing that because these jokers, these other people are thinking there's something because they're doing that for these other apostles. But that's the only thing you were lacking is that I didn't ask you for nothing. I didn't burden y'all. We went out there, we washed our own dishes, we out there did our own work, went out there, made tents, we got our own. Except, that time I was lacking, the Macedonians came and some of the brethren from the Macedonians took care of those needs for me. But I had to speak foolishly to y'all. Y'all compelled me to do it because y'all was, y'all letting these folks try to test my authority. Or try to test my apostleship. So I had to, speak to you in this manner. But you ain't only thing you were lacking was contributions to the ministry, which we see that he broke down that was lawful for him to have received, but he would rather die than receive those contributions from them because he wanted to teach the gospel freely. He wanted to boast in his infirmities. Let's look at some of the miracles of Paul. And we'll run through these things. Acts 14, 8 through 18. All right, maybe like 3 or 4 more slides, y'all.
You said Acts 18?
Acts 14, verse 8 through 18.
I get this first one out.
All praise. All right, bro.
This is Acts chapter 14 and verse 8. And there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, Stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Laconia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men.
Listen to what's going on now, Shalakia. All right, listen to what's going on. Yeah, the joker feet was crippled from the womb, and he had the faith. Paul seen that he had the faith to be healed. He said, with a loud voice, stand upright on thy feet. He leaped and walked. And when the people saw Paul, they lifted up their voices in the speech of Laconia, in their language. They spoke in the language of I want to say that's Laodicea, but Laconia. But they spoke in that tongue. The gods have come down to us in the likeness of men. Go ahead, verse 12.
Verse 12. And they called Barnabas Juniper and Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker. Then the priest of Juniper, which was before the city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people.
Listen, Shalakia, they already got this. The priesthood already set up in this place. They already got the priesthood set up for Jupiter and Mercurius. This thing is already established. They already got a temple. They feel like these are the two people they feel like Paul and Barnabas are these gods that have come down as men. And the priests done went and they ready to get the oxen ready. Because of this, because of what Paul has done. They done call these folks God. And we got jokers today talking about, man, he just writing his opinion. And I want to say these heathen because of the speech and the darn gods that they sitting up here serving. But these folks running up to these folks and saying that they gods, and we questioning whether this man whether we even need these epistles, whether you need to be listening to anything this man is selling us. Go ahead, Doc.
have done sacrifice with the people.
14.
Verse 14. Which, when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of, they rent their clothes and ran in among the people, crying out and saying, Sirs, why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things that are therein, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways. Nevertheless,
Very, very key verse right here. Never, who in times past suffer all nations to walk in their own ways. What does it mean he suffered?
Allow.
He allowed them. He allowed all the other nations to worship these fake gods. Now he's telling these people, man, listen, yeah, he let you do that, but watch verse 17.
nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, in that he did good, and gave us rain from heaven, and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness.
But he always left a witness. And the witness was the fact that y'all still got good seasons of rain. He still let y'all eat. He still let you fill your hearts with food and gladness. Even though you was out here worshiping these other deities and gods. But now it's time that you turn. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And with these sayings scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrifice unto them.
Yeah, he barely got to. Go ahead. You can read that last verse.
And there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead.
And we see where Paul was end up getting stoned. Where Jews came in and said, nah, we ain't dealing with none of that. Stoned him and left him for dead. But he did the miracle and almost convinced these, pretty much it took a lot to get them to not sacrifice unto him. Scarcely did it, but even in doing that, we see some Jews came in and stoned Paul. Acts chapter 16, verse 18.
This is the book of Acts 16, starting at verse 18. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out he came out the same hour.
He came out the exact moment he said that, he came out. Again, I seen some videos today, and brothers look like they were having some trouble, in my opinion, compared to what I'm seeing here, where once he told them get up out of there, they got up out of there. Then I'm not saying that it didn't eventually work. It might have worked, eventually, but didn't have the same sting as we see Paul's having here. And this is dealing with the woman that I think she was a fortune teller, and she kept prophesying about who what they were doing, and they was and kind of got on their nerves, and Paul ended up telling her to casting that demon up out of her, where she don't have that power anymore to tell fortunes or whatever.
Shalakia, can I get a precept real quick?
Go ahead, brother.
It's kind of the same thing what Paul did. This is the book of Matthew, real quick, 8 and 28. You see the same thing with our Lord and Savior, showing that Paul had the same spirit. This is the book of Matthew 8 and verse 28, and it says, Okay, it says, and when he was come to the other side into the country of I think it's Gersonis, there met him two possessed with devils coming out of the tomb, exceedingly fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with thee, Jesus, the Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before that time? And there was a good way off from them, and a herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, if thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herds of swine. And he said to them, go. And when they were and when they were come out, they went into the herds of swine, and behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea and perished in the water. And what you were saying about Paul, that he just cast that devil out, you know what I mean? And that's the same thing with the one that was possessed with the devil. Christ just said, go, and they were out of there. You know what I mean? It wasn't no resistance. It wasn't no kickback. You know, it was just go, and they was out of there. The same thing you see with Paul, just speaking it, and the same hour it was gone. And so you see the same spirit. I just wanted to pull that precept.
Absolutely. Great precept, because you're going to kind of see that same thing again here. It's an excellent precept for what's happening right here. Where we seen that those devils knew Christ. They knew exactly who came, and it was like, wait a minute, man, you might be, and they had a timeline for him. Like, wait a minute, like, is you off the timeline? Like, what's going on? Like, you supposed to be here yet? You finna cast us out already? Like, what's going on? We'll see the same thing here, man, in Acts 19, 8 through 18.
Acts 19 and 8.
Come.
And he went into the synagogue and spake boldly for the space of 3 months, disputing and persuading the things concerning the kingdom of God. But when diverse were hardened and believed not, but spake evil of that way before the multitude, he departed from them and separated the disciples, disputing daily in the school of one Tyrannus. And this continued by the space of 2 years, so that all they which dwelt in Asia heard the word of the Lord Jesus, both Jews and Greeks. And God wrought special miracles by the hand of Paul, so that from his body were brought unto the sick handkerchiefs or aprons, and the diseases departed from them, and the evil spirits went out of them. Then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits the name of the Lord Jesus, saying, we adjure you by Jesus, whom Paul preacheth. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Jew, and chief of the priests, which did so. And the evil spirit answered and said, Jesus I know, and Paul I know, but who are ye? And the man in whom the evil spirit was leaped on them and overcame them and prevailed against them, so that they fled out of that house naked and wounded. And this was known to all the Jews and Greeks also dwelling at Ephesus, and fear fell on them all. And the name of the Lord Jesus was magnified. And many that believed came and confessed and showed their deeds.
Now it said, listen, this man was a chief of this. He was one of the sons of this great chief priest. One of the sons of Sceva, a Jew, chief of the priests. He was out there and he was trying to adjure. He was trying to adjure and cast out these demons, by Jesus, whom Paul preacheth. by Christ, whom Paul preacheth. And the demon say, well, listen, man, I know Christ and I know Paul, but I don't know you. I don't know you. And again, this is how you know he's one of those chosen vessels that even the demons understand that. Even the demons understand that he was a chosen vessel by the Most High.
And Shalakia.
Go ahead, brother.
Oh, go ahead, brother.
I would just say, I'm gonna say, but imagine the look on his face after he say, "I know Paul and I know Jesus, but who are you, boy?" I hear.
God.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons was that is because it take a great deal of faith to be able to cast out demons. And so I got a precept right here. Matthew 17 and 19. It says, then came the disciples to Yahushua apart and said, why could not we cast him out? And this goes into when the disciples couldn't cast out the demons. And Yahushua said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. And so I think a lot of times, when like the story you just said, the reason why that demon, from my estimation, didn't know him, because he wasn't dealing with the same kind of faith as Paul. He wasn't dealing with the same kind of faith as Christ. Faith is Christ. And it's just like the disciples, when they couldn't cast out that demon, it's because they was dealing with lack of faith, and Christ kind of rebuked them on it, man. I hear, brother.
And I think that was that lack of faith was an issue with the disciples till I feel like till he returned, and that Holy Spirit was given unto them, and then we do see them eventually casting out casting out demons, and we see Peter doing all kind of miraculous things, bringing back the dead. Once that Pentecost, that event at Pentecost ended up happening, but there was a lack of faith, that definitely allowed that. And just like we read in the last slide, where perceiving the faith, Paul seen that this dude had the faith to be healed. Sometimes, even on the other end, sometimes, even though you're praying for an individual, they may not have the faith. They may ask for prayer, but they don't have the faith that your prayer can actually heal them. And that can hinder their healing also. And that's why, I've been saying the whole time, I'm not saying that, what I see on the internet, some of it, I'm not here to judge whether these things are true or not, that these people are receiving this healing or not. I'm not here to judge that, man. If somebody walk, they feel it benefited them, hey man, who am I to say come back and speak on it negatively, or just because I may not have the faith to, but that it's kind of jarred on that. It's kind of jarred on that faith on both sides. Does that person have the faith to do the healing? And does the other person have the faith to receive the healing? It has to, both of those things have to glue together to make that sandwich. For that to happen. But again, we just dealing with the respect. Other people wanting that. This almost reminds me of that movie. What's the movie? What's the movie? The Joker he want to be like Christ. He want to do the miracles and stuff, and
the Book of Clarence.
The Book of Clarence, Khan. He can be one of these vagabonds, all right, or these exorcists. Okay, they took upon them to cast out these evil spirits. We see Paul, just handkerchiefs and stuff touching him, and you see jokers today. What jokers today selling? These red handkerchiefs they'll send out, and then you rub it on your face and send some money back to them, and you know, they sending out these aprons and stuff like this. This right here gonna heal you. This is where they getting it from.
Yeah, the prayer clause. Yeah.
The prayer clause, con.
Don't I had a couple on. I had the oil in it. You sit there, bro. 2:00 in the morning on them if commercials comes on. Yeah, bro. Like, man, Lord talking to me. I need to get some of that.
That's what I'm saying. You had the faith. You had the faith to call that number.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not here to judge you whether that happened for you or not. But you know, the faith was on your side. You had the faith on your side. Yeah. I think this is the last slide here, y'all. Acts 20 and 7 through 12 and Acts 28, 1 through 8. This again, just some of the miracles that Paul did. And just for us to humble ourselves, man, put some respect on the apostle, man. And that's, you know, some of the acts that he did. That's all I really want to deal with today, man.
This is the book of Acts 7 and 12. You said
Acts chapter 20, 7 through 12.
Okay, this is the book of Acts chapter 20, 7 through 12. And it reads, and upon the first day of the week, when the disciples came together to break bread, Paul preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continue his speech until midnight. And there were many lights in the upper chamber where they were gathered together. And there sat in a window a certain young man named, I'm gonna try my best, Eutychus.
Eutychus?
Eutychus? Okay. It says, being falling into a deep sleep. And as Paul was long preaching, he sunk down with sleep and fell down from the third loft and was taken up dead. And Paul went down and fell on him and embraced him, said, trouble not yourselves, for his life is in him. When he therefore was come up again, and he broken bread, he ate and talked a long while, even till break of day. So he departed. And they brought the young man alive, and were not a little comfort. Shlaki, and were not a little comfort. And we went before the ship and sailed into Assos, there attending to take in Paul, for so had he appointed minding himself to go afoot.
That was all I wanted.
Huh.
Well, we see the boy, you know, he was up there in the third loft in the window sitting down. I guess it's 3 stories. And he ended up falling asleep. You know, Paul got a little long-winded. Always, you know, pretty much preaching to the break of day. Preached the whole day. You know. And you know how jokers get, man. 2-hour class, 3-hour class, joker, them eyes start getting heavy. And joker end up falling out the window and dying. And Paul ended up going down there, picking him up and embracing them and brought them back to life. And continued on. Eutychus. Okay, all praise. And brought him back to life. And again, this is one of his, you know, one of those miracles, man. Acts 28, 1 through 8. It's the last verse here, last little miracle here.
This is Acts chapter 28 and verse 1. And when they were escaped, they knew that the island was called Melita. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one, because of the present rain and because of the cold. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he had escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. And the same quarters were possessions of the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius.
Hey, Shalakia, y'all hear that static or that's just on my end?
That's you, huh?
It sounds like it's you.
It is me? Okay,
Yeah.
Shalakia.
Well, I don't hear it now.
Shalakia, go
Put the
ahead, brother.
chips down. I put the chips down. Okay. Verse 8. And it came to pass that the father of Publius lay sick of a fever and a bloody flux, to whom Paul entered in and prayed and laid his hands on him and healed him.
So we see, he also went in there. This is right after a shipwreck. So the ship crashed, wrecked, and he told the people that they would survive. He ended up getting a piece of board coming into this island with these barbarian people, and the barbarians kind of showed them some kindness, built them a fire because what they just seen happen, and they end up surviving. They thought maybe they lucky, but then while Paul's getting some wood, he ended up getting bit by a snake, by a viper. They waiting on that joker to die to swell up. But it don't happen, so they end up saying, "Hey, man, this man must be a god or something." He must have some kind of superpowers or whatever. But again, another testament, another miracle happening, and then he ends up, being healing this chief man, whoever was over or the governor of that island. His father was sick, and I guess was coughing up blood or something. And Paul went in there and laid hands on him and healed him. So again, you got to put some respect on Paul's name, man. This ain't no little good reads. This is an apostle. All right, this is an apostle. Did many great wonders and signs, and left us a witness. All right, he's a witness for how we should live, and definitely authoritative in my book. With that, man, that's it. Go ahead, brother.
I was just gonna say, how can anyone? I mean, like, unless you're trying to hide something, how can anyone not take Paul's words? It's really, really baffling. Now I look at you. Got to look at that person again. You dig? Because Paul was the man.
Paul was
you got to look at the person.
Brother.
Paul was the man. Hebrews. You got to look at the person that's trying to say he's not authoritative. Now, what is his motive? Because that's freaking crazy to me.
Absolutely.
I yield.
Absolutely. And a lot of it's fleshly, a lot of it's lust. Because we don't like what Paul says in certain places. And we'll rather, instead of us, changing and repenting, we'll rather tear Paul's epistles down. We'll rather tear him down and try to discredit him as a witness. But yeah, man, we pray this thing was edifying. Go back, man. Go back through Acts. Go back, you questioning. Go back through and look at some of the things that we went over today. Go back through these things, meditate on these things, man. Again, pray these things with edifying, and put some respect on his name, man. I yield. Shalom, Israel.
Hey, y'all brothers, pray for safe travels, man. I'm going to Chicago tomorrow for a wedding. I appreciate it.
Definitely sending up safe prayers. Travel prayers for Brother Dion. On that road, man. Again, we'll be on Bring It Out TV Friday. I want to say 7:30. Make sure y'all check us out there. And look for videos here also, man. We got to get back. I got to get back. We got to get back. We started on time today, starting the year all right. We can get back dropping these little jewels throughout the week also. I have to get better with that. But till then, Israel, man, y'all be blessed. Safe travels, brother.
Shalom.
Shalom.